songwriting. Music and lyrics and how to do that is the topic for today on It's All Right with Suzette. I'm Suzette Martinez Standring, and it's an honor to have an original songwriter and singer with us today, Franc Graham. Welcome, Franc.
Thank you.
She is the founder of the Franc Graham Band that has been playing in Boston and in Cambridge since the 1990s. Mm-hmm. You have 4 CDs out, mm-hmm. and the Boston Globe has described you as cool and commanding and highly underestimated.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Yes. And you often perform at the Milton Arts Center. We're really lucky here in Milton because you can see the Franc Graham Band perform often there. Now, your music has been described as low rock, hillbilly hip, swamp rock, alternative Americana. I think of you as a master of original songwriting.
Aww.
And we're really happy to have you give us your insider's view of the songwriting process. How do you describe your music, and what does it mean exactly? Because some of these terms are a little unfamiliar to many.
Yeah. Well, I actually never know how to describe it, and I usually look to someone near me who might know, who likes my music, or who gets it. And I think I like a lot of those things people have said, and they've said in reviews. I love getting lumped in with low rock, which was sort of the Morphine era of really deep, groovy kind of bass to the songs. And not all of my lyrics are incredibly melodic. There's a little bit of a talkiness there too. Mm-hmm. And then I like alt Americana because it's not really Americana. And what I was doing, I think, came along before that term was around, but it's got a component. All my recordings and all my performances until recently had Pacey Foster playing with us, and he played turntables and records, so he would use that as an instrument. And that added another component that made it, that really didn't have a category. Not to be like I'm, can't categorize me, but we never really did fit into something that was into any other categories that had been around. So those fit. I mean, there's ballads, there's the deeper groove stuff, and there's a sense of humor there. There's again that other component of sampling that happens in the recordings. Yeah, that's a long way of saying I don't know.
Well, I can tell you from listening to your music that it's really terrific. It's beautiful, it's easy to listen to, it's melodic, it's quirky, it's poetic. Who are your musical influences?
So, it's always funny I love talking about everyone that I love, but I never know exactly what fed, what I do now. But I grew up with 5 older sisters, and we had, Creedence in the house, and we had the Rolling Stones.
Clearwater. Oh yeah, another favorite of mine.
I always tell this story. My dad bought a used, everything was used, but we got a station wagon that came with 2 8-tracks in it. It was Creedence and it was Cabaret, and I learned them all note for note. So I feel like that was formative. And then we always sang as kids, and we listened to Laura Nyro and Joni Mitchell and the Stones and Joe Cocker. I have a big love for Joe Cocker. And
Mad Dog's an Englishman.
All that, I consider that bedrock. And then later I got into Latin Playboys and Chris Whitley, and still really groove-based, kind of low-end stuff.
All really terrific
but
musicians.
Good writers. Like, it's got to be a good writer. Yeah.
And for you, what makes a song great? When you're into that process of actually writing music and lyrics.
Yeah.
To you, what makes a song great?
Well, for me, it's so personal, but for me, it's got to hit me. It's got to put the lead in your pencil. So, I think a really good editor as a songwriter is important. If you're your own editor and you're a good one, great. But like having a song group or at least someone else to bounce your writing off of, just because it's music, I don't like to just kind of let lyrics slide and cliche and perfect rhymes. But you want to look at that like a poem or like fiction. I think it's as important, even though you've got a great, melody underneath it. I think those songs that have that strong writing and a strong composition and strong melodic piece. When that all comes together, that's just, you have a reaction to it. You know, it has an impact.
So the lyric writing is very important for you because a lot of songs, they seem to take a couple of lines and they're very repetitive.
Yeah.
And I noticed with yours, they tell a story. They're very visual. Much in the fashion of, say, Don McLean. How he has those great metaphoric kind of lyrics. Or Dire Straits. I love their lyrics. Speaking of great songs, let's take a moment and watch you in performance with this video clip. That was fun. You must have a lot of fun performing.
I love it. It's my favorite thing.
You were performing at that Milton concert during the summer.
Oh yeah, up at Hutchinson Field.
Yes,
we did that. Yeah, that's always fun.
Yeah, that's
Playing
great. We're
outside.
going to have a little montage of photos later on
great.
about your performances. And folks, if you're interested in Franc Graham's music, it's very easy. Go to YouTube, type in Franc Graham, F-R-A-N-C Graham, and her top 10 tracks will come up, and I guarantee it's really beautiful listening. And we'll talk a little more about how you can find her music and find more information about her. Now, I noticed when I was listening to your music that a lot of your lyrics come from a very reflective and yearning kind of place. And for instance, in your song Strange, it reminded me, your voice and style reminded me of Dusty Springfield circa Son of a Preacher Man. And so I just wanted to share some of your lyrics to kind of give an idea in the songwriting process of how poetic it can, it can be. In your song, Strange, you wrote, "It strikes me as strange that I should fall again like a big black runaway train. It's a messy mystery for figuring." And in your song, Looking, you wrote, "All my wisdom is buried in the back seat of a Model A." And to me, those kind of lyrics are so quirky and poetic and visual. And so do you personally feel that writing lyrics is like setting poetry to music?
I do, yeah. Yeah, now that you put it that way, I think, yeah, I'd like to think of it that way, for sure. I think that I've written poetry as well, and I tend to kind of like when it can stand alone. It was interesting just hearing you read that. But I think a lot of them can stand alone. Not to say good rock and roll, you don't necessarily want to hear yeah, and there's a place for repeating things.
There's
and
a
just,
place.
It's not all about this amazing word choice and combination of words. But yeah, I do see it as that. I do.
So what is your process? Do you find that you go to an emotional place and you, like for instance, when I write, I find that if I go to an emotional place first, if I feel it, I can convey it. Is that how it works for you? Or do you take observations and you're painting a picture in notes? How does it work for you?
I think that painting piece comes along with the arrangement, and that happens later. And I have a great Chris Rival, who plays guitar with me, has also produced and recorded all my albums, and he has a way at sort of later on just adding an amazing arrangement and really unusual instrumentation. But initially, I often have a first line and it gets in my head, and then I'll sort of set that to a groove, and then it's a question of sort of filling out what I'm talking about, what I'm trying to get across. And as you probably know, it's the hardest thing is finishing a poem or a story. It's a lot of times, you know, the first line's easy, and then it's kind of going into that. And I'm a big advocate of free writing, which I know there's great writers who don't do free writing, but I think most of them do. And that's a process of just getting it all out, the good, the bad, all kinds of junk. And we all write bad stuff early on, and we still write bad stuff, and you throw it out, and you take that process seriously. And so if I have a great, you know, first line, but I can't really shake it into anything, then, you know, it's time to move on.
You know, it's interesting because there's a very similar process to writing, in that if I can come up with a great lead paragraph, a great opening sentence, it sets me in the direction of where I want to go. And it's very interesting to hear that when you're writing lyrics to music, that the process is very similar.
It is for me. I think back on all these songs, and many of them were that first line, that set the tone, and then it goes from there.
And the music, where does the music come from?
So that, you know, sometimes there'll be a melody that'll come with that first line, or a rhythm, and then I repeat it a lot until I figure out where it needs to go from there. And if you listen to my songs, they are sometimes, people I've played with over the years have said they're deceptively easy, because there's not a whole lot there, so it seems, but there's a lot more. Sometimes that's harder to do when there's a lot of space in a song. It's harder to make that song work and to get it across. So
I found your music so engaging, simple, but really captivating.
Yeah.
And in a moment, we're going to return with Franc Graham, and she's going to talk to us more about the process of songwriting, especially for those who aspire to write songs, all about the process and her insights into them. So stay tuned, and we'll be back with Franc Graham. Hi, thanks for tuning back into It's All Right with Suzette, where we're talking about songwriting today with original songwriter and singer Franc Graham. So this is the part where I think that aspiring songwriters will be very interested in, and that is your process. To me, as a writer, writing music, lyrics, notes is such a foreign concept to me, and yet I know for people like you, it's a gift. It's a talent. It's not easy. But I'd like to know, what's the path? For those people who feel they have a gift, what's the path for becoming a songwriter? How long have you been doing it?
Well, I've been playing music, I guess, professionally since the early 90s. But I started as a kid playing guitar, banging around on it, not really knowing what I was doing. I took some classical guitar lessons, and I, kept a few of those skills, but I'm not formally trained, so I'm not I don't know deep theory. Everybody I play with does, and they sort of joke around about how I arrive at what I do, and they appreciate it. But so I think I would have to say, as much as I love the style that I have as a musician, and I love it. I think getting training early is really essential. Not essential, but I guess I wish I had done more of that early. Not that it's too late, and I'm still always going into
musician.
And I'm always going. I'm trying new tunings, and I go into the sort of more serious music world off and on. But I like the idea of getting some chops.
Yes.
Early on. And, some people say, don't do it. It's going to destroy the creative process. And, it depends on the kid for sure, but I don't necessarily think that's the case.
Yeah.
And I just think you got more in your toolbox, for writing. So I think studying it, getting into it, doing the thing that you love. A friend of mine who's a horn player said he wished when he was a kid that lessons were not these lessons in a room where you're just drilling scales and stuff, but that it was with other kids. So I'm a big advocate of practicing with other kids, whether it's in your lesson or outside of it. Have your lesson and then start an ensemble, even early on, just to keep it fun and
Keep it fun and collaborative.
Right, and then writing, I mean, write what you love. Like I was saying, write down all the junk. It's not going to be great right away for most of us. And then keep doing it and get other eyes on your writing.
Now, I'm a little curious. You said that if you could do it again, you would have gotten your musical training much earlier. Do you think that doing well in language and English and things like that play a part in
Huge.
lyrics writing?
Huge.
Really?
I mean, not to be, I mean, of course there's writing that's, you know, coming out of other cultures that
Sure.
don't have that kind of training, and that's amazing stuff. And there's great, you know, rap artists that might not have that, you know, background. Some of them do. So not to say it's going to shut a door on a certain talent you have, because it's all about what your voice is, what you really want to say. But yeah, I think the more language you have, the more reading you do, like read, and write as much as you can. Absolutely. I mean, it just it makes it all way more interesting later on if you don't have to be reading sort of careless cliche.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about.
Right.
So yeah, that's absolutely a really good reminder.
You know, I'm glad you said that, because when I listen to your music on YouTube, her top 10 tracks, so beautiful. I mean, the lyrics are deep and funny and quirky and poetic, and there's a real skill to that kind of writing. Just as when you read a novel and it draws you in and the language keeps you going and it captivates you, it's the same thing I think with songwriting, and I really realized that last night when I was listening to your lyrics.
I think so too. I think the more you do it, the more you will find that voice. And that's the thing. I mean, everybody says, oh, you can't rewrite it. You know, people will say in rock and roll, every song's been written. And there's some truth to that, the chord progressions. But I think what you have to say and the actual tone of your voice and of your instrument is absolutely unique. I mean, absolutely can be. And finding that, I think, is rare. But I think with if you're that inspired and you want to do the work, and you have a vision, it will come.
And I think that your music is storytelling, much in the tradition of Don McLean, Taylor Swift, Adele. I mean, I see stories in your music, and I find that it lifts it to another realm. It's really very visual and interesting to me. Now, what do you feel are the traits necessary to be a professional musician? You've been playing since the 1990s, and I think that it takes a lot of energy and marketing and all that kind of stuff, you know, always tapping into your creativity. But for I talk to some young kids sometimes, and they want to be guitarists, or they want to be, what really, from an insider's point of view, what does it take?
Well, it really depends on where you want to go with it. I think it takes an incredible amount of chutzpah and hard work, and I've sort of gone up and down over the years, and I'm at a point now where I'm pretty, I mean, I definitely have frustrations, you know, where I'm not exactly where I want to be, or have a wider audience, but I feel good about my music, and that's not a question anymore. I don't really have those times of like, oh God, you know, what's wrong with this music, or what's wrong with the songs. That's not the case. But I think if you want to become a Taylor Swift, that's probably somebody else's advice you're going to need, because I didn't do that, you know, and I didn't get to that point. And these days, it's all about social media, and the kids know better than I do, like that it's having your hands in all that stuff and having that chatter going on, which I don't, you know, I don't. And I sort of came up before that time, which was, you know, lots of people have, you know, a lot to say about what's easier now, what's harder now. But I think if there is an avenue right now that you don't have to pay you don't have to pay a record producer to get your music out. You can get it out on all the social media and get the buzz started that way. And it's almost free to do it. So, I mean, that might be something to focus on with somebody who's actually doing that now. I'm trying, but it's now at this point, I've got a family, and you can't put, in your 20s and 30s, you can put all this energy into it and try to keep the train going. So I think generally speaking, a whole lot of commitment and a whole lot of hard work, and have something to say.
And you must get a profound amount of satisfaction, whether we're talking about huge stadium arenas or not. There is a deep satisfaction in sharing your music, your gift, that keeps you going. Otherwise, you wouldn't still be here performing.
It really does. It's playing live that I just love it. I get a whole lot back from doing that. And again, usually if there's a crowd, it's better. And the bigger the crowd, the better. And sometimes, a really small club, that magic happens. And sometimes in a bigger place where you can actually hear yourself, I just get so much from it.
Now, you perform. We're so lucky here in Milton because we can see Franc Graham perform at the Milton Arts Center pretty regularly.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah.
I love the Milton Arts Center.
It's a great spot, and they asked me to host an open mic there, which I do the first Thursday of every month. Rain or shine.
First Thursday of every month.
So it starts at 7. You get there a little early. You sign up, and it's a really welcoming group.
It is.
If it's your first time playing, if you've been playing for 50 years, you get to do 2 songs, and there's refreshments. It's free. We do ask for a donation to keep things going, but it's great. And we also have a music series. We've done 3 or 4 of the series now, and we'll have another one starting in the fall. Those are really affordable too. You can buy a package for the 3 shows, and they're usually a national act that'll be there. And then
they've
we
got
try
some
to get
fantastic performers.
Yeah, and we'll try to get someone local to open up for them. So we're trying to really support the local artists as well. It's great that it's happening in Milton. We want to keep it there. There is talk of the fire station, taking over, but
that's been.
I've been hearing.
Okay.
But anyway.
All right. But it is a great community hub.
Yeah, it's really great to support it. So.
Yes, and the arts have really bloomed.
Yeah.
Under, in that community center. Now, how can we get in touch with you and be able to buy your CDs?
So CD Baby is a really great website to support. They are really good to artists. Don't stream. Stream if you have to, but when you stream a song, it makes about, 1/100th of a cent or something for the artist. But so CD Baby, or you can just go to Facebook to Franc Graham Band, and that'll connect you to buy CDs, and you can actually get the real CD and hold it in your hand and read the lyrics. Or my website as well will link you, and that's francgraham.com, Frank with a C, and then Graham like the cracker. So those are ways, and I don't even think they're in record stores anymore. Not that, I know some kids are getting interested in record stores again, but those are the ways.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, word on the street is that you may be giving a songwriting class at the Milton Arts Center.
Yeah, so I'm talking to them about it. I'm not sure when it would start, but there's so many kids that come to open mic, and we want to encourage more kids to come because it's really a great opportunity for them to try out songs and connect with other musicians. There's little ensembles that come and play, and I might start a songwriting group. And if there's, if we hear there's interest for it with the young, the old, anyone. But it's a really essential process, I think, to run songs by each other. Again, making a good song great, I really think can happen in that group process where you get to hear some, direct feedback. So more stay tuned for that, I guess.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Much like being in a great writing group. Well, I want to thank you so much for being here,
Suzette,
and sharing your insights. And I want to do a special shout out to your husband, Ron Fletcher, because when I moved to Milton in 1990, I remember taking a very first writing workshop that he held at the Milton Library. So,
yes.
We're all connected.
We're all connected. And I just wanted to, can I add one thing? I'll be playing the 3rd Tuesday of every month in Cambridge at Toad, and it's the early hour, and it's before another fantastic band called the Blue Ribbons. But I think it's the 3rd Tuesday of every month. 7:30 to 9.
At Toad.
At Toad, right in Porter Square. Take the train there. You can eat. And it's just a fantastic room, and it's a fun crowd. And if you want to stay late, there's another great band afterwards. Just want to mention that.
Fantastic. So appreciative of you being here,
Thank
Frank.
you.
And really, folks, check out her music, her top 10 tracks on YouTube. And I guarantee you will want to see her in person. And we're so fortunate to have her at the Milton Arts Center pretty regularly. So thank you again, Frank.
Thank you, Suzette.
And good luck to all you aspiring songwriters. Hope this show helped you. We'll see you next time on It's All Right with Suzette.